My name's Guy Kesterman. I've been a professional bike and kit tester for over 25 years, and today I'm outside the awesome EXe Brenin at Coed Y Brenin. I'm going to take fuel EXe 9.7, well it's actually a EXe Brenin custom build this, but it's close to a 9.7, around the original Welsh mountain bike trail to see how this lightweight, super stealthy trail MTB turns me on. Right, we are officially in beast mode on the longest, toughest trail here at Coed Y Brenin. So the radical thing about this bike when it launched was it was the first mountain bike to use TQ's harmonic pin ring motor, what they call an ultra power dense motor. So tiny motor, just over 1800 grams, barely visible on the bike, and with actually a unique motor technology, what they call harmonic pin ring, which I'm not going to try and go into detail here, but basically kind of like works almost like a rotary engine. If you know your wankles in your First World War biplanes, and it just makes it ultra quiet and punchy for its size. So while torque tops out at 50 Newton meters and peak wattage tops out at 300 watts, you're still getting very obvious drive along here, but with basically zero lag and zero noise. I can't hear it at all over the trail noise from the tyres. But when you hit a little rise section, which is entirely what Coed Y Brenin's made of, you can really appreciate that extra help you're getting in your legs. And it's got 3 modes, and I'm going to run it in the middle mode. They all kind of give, you know, a proportionate level of rider assist, so the harder you pedal, the more effort they'll put in by the motor. But this one seems like a nice balance at the moment, and it should mean I get the full trail distance out of this slimline 360 watt hour battery that's very well hidden in this carbon frame. And obviously 300 watts, 50 Newton meters does not make it a full power e-bike. It's kind of mid power. A lot of motors getting towards 100 Newton meters now in terms of torque, but so you will find yourself gearing down in a similar way. I say that, but obviously still going up here a lot quicker than I would without the assistance. But I'm not saying it's superhero strength. That's what I'm trying to get across. Kind of reasonable boost to your speed and fitness rather than anything ridiculous. And the fact it's so quiet and it picks up really naturally makes it totally unobtrusive, apart from the fact it feels like it's basically done a load of training for you. It's like it's kept up with that promise you made yourself in January to do a bunch of interval training and gym work. But this 9.7 custom one is still a relatively chunky bike. I mean, not in e-bike terms, 19.5 kilos without pedals, but on the top models, 9.9, you can shed another 2 kilos off that. And as I think we'll see today, this is a bike that can properly handle some hammer. And while Coed Y Brenin is primarily kind of janky old school rocks, you have got sections like this where you can really appreciate the slacker, longer geometry of the EXe. So I've got it in low setting at the moment, so that's a 64.8 head angle, 76.8 seat angle, and then reach 483, depending on where you have that flip chip, and that'll also take half a degree off the steering and seat angles as well. But just really nicely poised for flowing trails like that. And then 438 back end on all sizes. So Trek haven't gone in for proportional geometry in terms of dimensions, and also you don't get quite as many sizes in the EXe as you do in its conventional partner, the Fuel EX. So it's small through XL, but without any of the medium, large, mid sizes. And the quietness of the motor really is definitely a highlight of this system. You're not sort of deafening audio defecation, breaking up the solitude of other users, because it's a pretty busy Sunday here in Coed Y Brenin at the start of the Easter holes. I mean, looks like not many people are doing the beast today, because as you can see, there's some proper challenging black sections on this route. But this bike, more than a match for that. Like I say, this is Joe from Summit, customised it a bit. He swapped out Fox Rhythm 36 fork for a RockShox Lyric Ultimate, which I have mixed feelings about, to be honest. It's quite punishing through the palms, this fork. And Hope Tech E4 brakes rather than the codes it should come with, which is definitely a bonus should I need to stop this rampage trek. But yeah, really nice and poised down there. Got Trek's classic ABP suspension system, the rear pivot concentric to the rear axle, keeps it nice and neutral from braking input particularly, but also relatively pedal neutral as well. Although this definitely feels like they've tuned the Float X Fox, the Float X rear shock up pretty tight. It's an efficient feel up here, rather than as kind of plushy and smooth and well damped as the Fuel EX I rode. I do feel guilty just chatting my way up to people on normal bikes though, especially when there's this little killer slab up ahead. Chat, cheating my swine coming through. Cheers. And again, it's, well, there's no override on this motor like the Bosch and the Shimano, so it doesn't give you an extra kick once you're over the top. That natural feel makes it really easy to predict when the power's coming in or out. And in terms of travel, you've got 150 up front and then 140 at the rear. But unlike some super light e-bikes, it's definitely still, you know, quite a trail sort of enduro spec really. You've still got piggyback damper on that Float X shock, and you know, sturdy fork up front, even in standard trim. I have to say, just hopping those little sections there, that felt really good. It's a bit chattery over the rocky kind of comfort stuff, but lands beautifully. And well, you know, whee, that stuff, oh yeah, happy flying that. And there's, typically for Trek, it's a really stiff frame as well, so that front end can be really leaned into. Hey, well, actually, should get around to that. It can be really leaned into as far as you can trust the tyres. Got Bontrager's EXe 5s, which look pretty knobbly, and the rear ones got a reinforced whee. Remember that for tomorrow. We're here again on another lightweight e-bike I can't talk about just yet, but which will obviously be a competitor for this one from another big American brand. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, they look pretty knobbly, the SE5s, but on the plus side they roll a lot faster than you might think. On the downside, they let go earlier than you might think, especially on wet, rocky stuff. And obviously, there's quite a lot of that in a mountain forest in Wales. So I've already slid the front end a few times. There we go. Just, I mean, so far it's just, well, I've had one big one. Those have been kind of micro slides, but it's definitely something you want to think about when it comes to upgrading. Maybe a stickier front tyre at least, and I might well let some pressure out. Just picked it up from Bikes Brenin, like I say, so it's running their default pressures, and it felt okay, but I might give it a bit less so you can get something I can rely on a bit more up front. And while this is the lighter weight e-bike in the Trek stable, you've obviously got the Rail series as well, with a full-size, much larger battery, double the size now. Whee! Oh, that was lovely, I have to say. Drop the pressure out the front tyre a bit now. Really got a lovely step out from the back end there. Feels like I can play with the bike a bit more. And while it comes double 29er, that flip chip means you can run it mullet as well with a 27.5. So there's even more agility. No, I mean, to be fair, I would say it's not the most poppy of bikes. Feels pretty grounded, pretty locked in, and very light. The Fuel EXe did, if you watch that video, a real ground hugger compared to the Fuel EXe, which is a proper player. So I mean, really, Trek have definitely moved on in terms of their bike categories. What used to be sort of the slash range is now, and the remedy is now very much where this sort of Fuel EXe, Fuel EXe sit, and the top fuel is now more where the Fuel EXe used to sit for kind of all around trail duties. And just going back to the question of how much kind of extra power and speed it gives you, I reckon it's about 2 to 3 gears on a steady climb. So I'll probably be in first or second on a long grade like this. As you can see, still kind of halfway down the block, my EXe roommate. And I'm going to do a full tech talk around on the bike as well, but you can see just so sleek, so quiet. Even if I get in close, I'm passing people and they have no clue that I've got German space robot motors helping me along, because that is genuinely what TQ do most of the time. And while it's certainly super efficient and easy to ride in the saddle, when you get out the saddle to give it a bit more of a punch, that's definitely when you can feel there's not as much drive from this motor, and also feel the suspension moving about a fair amount too. So definitely an efficiency bike rather than a hustling bike on climbs. And in terms of actual controls and displays, you can see you've got your mode switch on the left over there. You got up and down between your 3 modes. That's where the walk button is. If I just tilt this down here, you can see you've got this really neat flush mounted screen here that gives you your different displays. You can see at the moment it's reading off my wattage and the bike's wattage. It's quite a nice touch. And then speed, average speed, battery extent, life, what that means in time, and then it'll give it in miles as well. So you can see it reckons got about 9 miles left to go now. So I reckon by the time I've done full beast, I'll be pretty much done, because that's 35k, which is a fair amount of work. But you can obviously get a range extender as well, which adds another 160 watt hours. So effectively 50% more range. And this has been a fascinating bike to ride, because I think it genuinely really represents the future of mountain biking, or e-mountain biking, middle ground. Certainly, because what you've actually got is a bike replicates where e-mountain bikes were to begin with, in terms of doing an hour and a half to 3 hours worth of full effect riding with a reasonable amount of power, but it does it in a far lighter, far better balance, far less audibly and sort of centre of gravity affected way. It's far more like a normal bike. You really can ride this exactly as you would a normal super capable mid-travel trail bike, but with that extra boost. So let's give it full back. We're nearly done. Let's get full power out of it. It's just, I think it was Specialized at coining the phrase "it's you but better," but it really is just an amplification of all the things you can normally do on a bike, but with more range, more power, the ability to, whether it's get more distance in just for getting further, or to get more descents in if you're feeling like sessioning somewhere, but in a really usable, like I say, just unobtrusively natural and sorted setup. Really has super impressed me around here, and it'd be really interesting to see how it shapes up to other e-bikes in this category that I've got coming up for tests. Like, I've ridden the Levo SL the current one, I can say without giving too much away, around here already last year, actually with Joe from Bikes Brenin, and that's a lighter bike than this. It's not as high powered though, but interestingly this has actually used more battery because it's got more power. I've been fast around, but it's used more battery as a result. So I think, you know, Full Beast is gonna pretty much leave me flat. I've not got range anxiety on it because it's nicely communicated and I can always change the power down, but you know, I think for longer rides you definitely are going to want that extender battery in it. And if you want more comfort, I'd maybe look at possibly even getting the rear shock retuned slightly, and to really max out its natural baseline control and aggression with geometry, you probably want stickier front tyre as well. But then the fact that this rolls so well is helping that range and that speed of the bike. So like anything, you know, there's a little bit of tweaking, but as it stands, this really is an incredible bike for all sorts of riding. So I'm gonna have to wrap this up quick because I've got to be starting another test on something I can't even talk about yet, just up the road, and we'll be coming down to Coed Y Brenin tomorrow and then Dubby the next day. But anyway, let's talk about this bike. Really is something special. I mean, other bikes are using the TQ motor now, but even so, the way they've integrated it and how natural it feels on the bike is genuinely outstanding. And the fact that it comes in a proper full control, I mean, full beast mode, as you've seen, control package in terms of travel, in terms of geometry, and just its feel on the trail. This is a properly grounded, super controlled bike. You know, this isn't a lightweight skip about kind of vehicle. This is a proper pinner. But yeah, so all it remains to me to do now is say thank you to Joe and the team at Bikes Brenin for letting me borrow the bike today. Massive thanks to Trek Bikes UK for supporting the video as well. Huge thanks to Giro Cycling, to Pete East Products, to Crud XL Fenders. That's certainly been super useful, keeping the lens clear on the wetter trails today. And thanks to Talk Nutrition. I've been chowing their bars as I've gone round, which is why I'm still perky and chatting to you now. Massive thanks to Hebtro Co and Enduro Bearings as well, who are my most recent channel sponsors. And if you're watching from the industry, I would absolutely love some more supporters to join me, because obviously that helps the channel grow and it helps me spend more time in front of the camera away from my other testing works, telling people about bikes like this in my favourite way, on camera. But also a massive thanks to my Patreon subscribers who pledge a monthly amount, and my investors who are the $10 a month guys. His names are scrolling up now, but donations start at a lot smaller than that, and that gets you exclusive access to early, ad-free and extended edits, and kind of a better level of personal buyer information as well from me, based on all my experience and all the stuff I test on a pretty much daily basis. But if you can't afford that, fully understand. If you could click for notifications, subscriptions, and give this a thumbs up like, that would be massively appreciated. And if you tell your mates you've enjoyed watching it, that is probably the biggest recommendation you can give overall. So get busy chatting about Guycase TV. This isn't Fight Club. The first two rules of watching Guycase TV are tell your mates about it and tell your other mates about it as well. But for now, I'm quite clearly losing the plot. But I have had a splendid afternoon on the excellent trails of Coed Y Brenin, on the equally excellent, this wasn't even meant to be a pun when I started, but it's turning that way, Trek Fuel EXe 9.7 in the unique Bikes Brenin custom spec.